Everybody thinks 8 gigabytes is enough, which it kinda is on the GTX 970, and Nvidia has the bad drivers now. My, how the tables did something. Let's get into hot news, everybody. I'm your Brett host. We're gonna be going over the hottest tech news I can find on the internet while you enjoy your breakfast this Tuesday, May 27, 2025. I'm gonna start off today just thanking everybody for the support that they showed over on our Computex visit. Getting to go to Taiwan's always a fantastic time. I did notice a couple comments of people being like, you weren't even there. You weren't on the show floor. What are you talking about? This is just typically how we do Computex content. We go to the show floor to get all the information and then record back at the Airbnb or hotel or wherever we're staying. It's something that I've been doing since I've been covering Computex in 2016. Last year we tried to film a lot from the show floor. I feel like our videos are worse when we do that. I don't have enough preparation to like get my thoughts together for the video, so we did it. We went back to it, and all the B-roll was shot on location. Right, I'm there behind the camera, filming, getting all the information from the product managers, etc. Had a good time. So in case you're wondering, that's kind of how we do show coverage here. Not necessarily on the show floor, because I like to think and research after the fact rather than just try to regurgitate on the fly, which I can do. There's no problem with that. I like it the other way. And AMD likes it the way of giving you 8 gigabytes of VRAM, because the RX 9060 XT got announced at Computex, and people are like, hey, 8 gigabytes, you're Nvidia now, what are you doing? And Frank Azor, who's one of the chief people over at AMD, coming out and saying, yeah, that's because most gamers don't need more than that, and that most played games worldwide are mostly esports games. We wouldn't build it if there wasn't a market for it. If 8 gigabytes isn't right for you, then there's 16 gigabytes. Same GPU, no compromise, just memory options, which if you think about it, and this is nuance, right? Like, we're gonna go into this for a second. The truth is, the issue that a lot of people have when it comes to the 8 versus 16 gigabyte thing is that there's the future-proofing discussion, and then there's also the, like, it kind of limits you in certain games right now discussion. And if you don't play those games and or aren't looking to expand past your current library of games, then it may not matter in that regard. So like, people will just buy the card that they want that's best for them at the price point that they can afford. And that's kind of what I think he's trying to allude to, is that if you're not an 8 gigabyte gamer, then they built a 16 gigabyte card that's very limited money above where it actually is at. This is kind of assuming that real world pricing is going to be anywhere near the delta that they indicated with their MSRPs. If it's not, and the 16 gigabyte version is exceptionally more, kind of like it is with the 5060 Ti, then it's less of an honest conversation in my opinion. And then the 8 gigabyte versus 16 gigabytes, you're still charging a significant premium to not get the 8 gigabytes. The only thing I will say in addition to this is that Frank Azor typically kind of says a lot of controversial stuff when it comes to the launches of their graphics cards. The last thing he said with the RX 9070 series was that they were gonna work on getting things down to MSRP by incentivizing retailers, or whatever specific language he used on that. Never manifested. It never actually resulted in real world changing in pricing. So, you know, he's doing his job of trying to make AMD look good. But let me know what you think of all of this. Does AMD saying that you're good with 8 gigabytes have you seen red? But if it doesn't, I know who will. Today's video sponsor. Despite being the largest organ of the human body, our skin is often left in the dust when it comes to being properly cared for, especially for us dudes. Lucky for us, today's sponsor Omnilux has a simple and non-invasive way to keep us glowing. Omnilux's men's face red light mask takes up literally just 10 minutes of your day, but can help boost collagen production, even skin tone and texture, and reduce inflammation and redness. For me, I deal with razor burn and the other joys that come along with daily shaving, but with just wearing the Omnilux men's mask a few times a week, shaving is leaving my face in a much better state. While I'm simply looking to improve texture and reduce inflammation, the Omnilux men's face mask is also FDA cleared to reduce fine lines and wrinkles if you're looking to shave a few years off your mug. All of this is possible by just simply wearing the mask 3 to 5 days a week, 10 minutes at a time for 4 to 6 weeks. So now when you sit down to do your OSRS herb runs, pop this bad boy on and let your skin thank you later. Grab yourself an Omnilux men's red light face mask by either scanning the QR code here or following the link in the description below. No, that is not the shiny red glow of the Omnilux mask that is deceiving you. The Pixel 10 is actually already been unveiled because Google was out and about filming a commercial for it and people got to see it. Now this just is the latest extension of a long history of Google's Pixel devices being leaked well before they're announced. The Pixel 9 launched, I believe it was in August of last year, so we're still a few months away from the unveiling of the 10, but it doesn't matter because that has never stopped Google from keeping things under wrap previously. Now, the Google Pixel 10 was seen in this ad that's likely going to feature heavily with AI because their tagline is ask more of your phone, so they're likely going with a more conversational situation with the Pixel 10, and it looks roughly the same as the Pixel 9. No huge upgrades to the camera bar bump that's going on the back there. However, that is likely what the upcoming iPhones are supposed to look like, allegedly. And the upcoming efficiency standard for 80 plus is allegedly coming to power supplies because it's more than alleged, it's actually happening. 80 plus Ruby is going to be the latest 80 plus standard. Now, this is kind of something that's been changing over the last couple of years. You see 80 plus has kind of been the standard that people have been using for discussing the efficiency of their power supplies. However, lately, other power supply companies have been using cybernetics as their benchmark for how efficient their power supplies are because there is more rigorous standards, as well as noise is a component of the cybernetics testing, whereas 80 plus typically just focuses on efficiency at a specific load amount. 80 plus Ruby is going to be the best one that's currently out there, mostly for server power supplies, with there being a couple power supplies that have already been rated, such as a 5500 watt from Delta Electronics. Now, 80 plus Ruby is going to mean that you have 92% efficiency at 100% load, but the big thing here is that 80 plus Ruby is now the first one to dictate an efficiency standard at 5% load, whereas all of the previous 80 pluses were at a 10% load. So 80 plus Bronze requires you to have 80% efficiency at a 10% load and 82% efficiency at 100% load. And then Platinum and Titanium having the same 100% load efficiency, but differing in that 10% load. It's just a neat little thing that 80 plus Ruby is going to be rolling out. Likely not going to affect you too much. Just wanted to keep you updated on the ranking systems. And I kind of feel the same way about Sparkle's new graphics card that they had to show off at Computex. I didn't get to see this on the show floor, but Video Card's posting that there is a Sparkle card that has a Thunderbolt 5 connector baked in. So yes, Type-C connectivity on an Intel card. They're calling it Project Thundermage, where it has a Barlow Ridge controller that allows it to output Thunderbolt 5 at speeds of 80 gigabits per second, despite them capitalizing the B on their wall. That should be a lowercase, and it also delivers power so that you don't necessarily, with some monitors, lower power monitors, you wouldn't have to have an external power supply. You could just use the graphics card because it can supply up to 27 watts of power. Now, that's not likely to be a high-end monitor, but you should be able to use a few out there that will allow you to transfer the data, the signal, and the power all through one singular cable off of your Intel graphics cards. And I'm going to transfer all of the deals through one singular Reece with his Schmafford Smart.
Yo, welcome back to UFD Deals, bringing the hottest tech deals on the internet, and I'll jump straight into them for you guys today, starting off with this JBL Quantum 200 wired gaming headset, which you can grab for only $29.95, making it $30 or 50% off. But then keeping that 50% off streak going, we have the EpoMaker RT100. With this 90% wireless hot swappable mechanical keyboard going for $52.99 with included promo code, making it $53 off. And then lastly today, we have this gorgeous LG 32-inch 4K 240Hz OLED monitor, which you can grab for $899.99, making it $500 off and an extra $100 off the most recent low. And hey, with that, the deals are done. You can find these and more linked in the video description down below. But until next time, man, you're back to Brett for the rest of your heart. Cheers.
Well, Reece, if you had a GTX 970 and the uncanny ability of soldering things where they don't belong, well, then you're getting a great deal because turns out you can solder 8 gigabytes of VRAM onto the GTX 970. Now, I can already anticipate the commenters down below in the comments being like, don't you mean 7 gigabytes? And kinda, I do. 7 gigabytes of fast RAM, 1 gigabyte of slow RAM. That's how the GTX 970 was constructed. However, you might remember that I talked about this previously, and that's because this is the same mod that Paulo Gomez did a few months ago. However, the difference here is that he sent it over to another tech tuber for them to benchmark in video games, because initially what we saw was that the switch over to 8 gigabytes of VRAM allowed it to score exceptionally well in synthetic benchmarks. However, in gaming, certain video games, you see no upgrades with this because your GPU core limited more than you are VRAM limited, such as in Red Dead 2, GTA 5 Enhanced, Plague Tale Requiem. However, in games where you are heavily VRAM limited, such as Horizon Forbidden West or The Last Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, you do see significant upticks in FPS. We're talking about going from like 39 to like 50. It's a significant uptick. It's pretty impressive. This is not likely going to be a solution for many people who are on their dying legs of a GTX 970 right now, but it could potentially bring you hope in case you're interested. But this is, I'm talking to like 1 or 2 people in the audience at most. And while Paulo Gomez keeps putting things on Nvidia cards that Nvidia doesn't want them to have there, I really wish Nvidia would get around to putting more power connectors onto their RTX 50 series high-end graphics cards because of all the melting that we've been seeing. I didn't include this article in today's hot news, but there's been yet another yellow Corsair tipped power supply cable that melted because it's not the full insertion, it's not user error, it's putting too much power through small cables that's causing the issue with not enough safety tolerances. And we see that based on this new 5090 prototype, they did have safety tolerances built in for testing. They had 4 16-pin power connectors on this snapped-in-half graphics card. Now, likely it's been decimated like this because they didn't want people using it after the prototype stage, but it does show that Nvidia knew how to put multiple power connectors on the high-end graphics cards and then chose not to give it to us because they just didn't want to. Probably cost is a factor there. They clearly know how to engineer it. Having 2 of the 16-pin power connectors likely could have mitigated a lot of the melting that we're seeing on the 5090s, but doesn't appear to be a big enough issue for them to fix. But what's becoming a big enough issue for them to start fixing is their drivers. Now, obviously, the joke has been for ages that AMD has the bad drivers. They're the ones who are crummy at it. But Nvidia, over the last few months, have just kind of flipped that script with them having to fix yet another issue that's coming to their latest graphics cards. Now, we've talked about how things like the RTX 40 series was having severe black screen issues and blue screen issues and instability when the latest drivers started rolling out. Then we talked about this last week. They had to fix the fact that their mobile laptops weren't getting full power on their drivers, and they just fixed that. And now they're fixing a black screen issue that was happening to RTX 5060 and 5060 Ti graphics cards because of just how it communicated with some of the motherboard BIOSes that are out there. It wasn't actually working well with specific BIOS setups on various different motherboards, and now they have fixed that with a VBIOS update to the 5060 and 5060 Ti. Now, this can be perceived in a good situation, right? Nvidia is actively updating these things. They're actively fixing these things, communicating that it's happening. However, this is the latest issue that they're fixing, and I've still heard reports and read in the comments of Hot News that people are still experiencing instability even on the latest drivers with their RTX 40 series or even 50 series cards. And it's looking like they're starting to run into a situation where their reputation is starting to be transformed as the stable company to the unstable company. Especially in the enthusiast sector, people are blaming this on their devotion to AI, to data centers, all of the money that they're making there, and not putting enough focus into the gaming sector when it comes to that software. Whether or not that's actually true, it's impossible to say because we don't know the internal workings of what's going on over at Nvidia. It's just how people are going to perceive the situation when you're making billions and billions and billions more on a specific product sector and you're charging people out to wazoo for things that have not improved very much. It's a little frustrating of a situation for many people around. I actually did the calculation talking about the GTX 970, how it had 4 gigabytes of VRAM when it came out. That was 16 times higher than the card that came out 10 years prior to it. But we're 11 years ahead of the GTX 970. I just assumed 10 years. We are 3 times that at the 70 class card. Slow down. The RAM increases are going down. They're not increasing as fast. Moore's RAM is dead, allegedly. And you guys aren't dead because you left comments on Friday's episode of Hot News. Let's see what you had to say there. We got Videographer saying, if SteamOS is made as a standalone OS that I can install on a PC, I'd switch in a heartbeat. I mean, that's the idea. That's what they're working on. Now, Valve is saying that it's not technically a desktop replacement, and we're likely going to struggle with various different driver issues that are going to happen. But the idea is that SteamOS will be standalone. Reece has already installed SteamOS on his Legion Go. Not the newest, latest Legion Go S or whatever it's called, but his regular full-fat Legion Go, he now has SteamOS on it. It's currently being designed around handhelds, but we're just a couple tweaks away from people potentially being able to install it on their desktop, which Connor Me Leggy saying if Valve drops SteamOS for desktop right before Windows 10 EOL in October, they're going to have massive install base. One can hope. One can hope. Then we got Devin saying, I bought Expedition 33 because of you. No spoilers, but genuinely you have single-handedly made me cry, get addicted, and have me die to a giant flying snake for over 5 hours straight. I'm so happy for you. That's such a good life that you're living right here. So over the flights to Taiwan, the flight there and the flight back, I was finally able to beat Expedition 33, and I was able to beat the hardest boss in the game, which was ridiculous and not expected in any way, shape, or form how difficult that situation was gonna be. And then finally, right before filming, I have gotten all the achievements in the game and I have 100%ed it. I haven't started my New Game Plus gameplay right yet. I think I'm gonna give it a little bit to like give me some breathing room to jump back into it, but I can confidently say I'm gonna say it's my favorite game of all time right now. Recency bias has got me really struggling to confidently say that, but it's at least top 3. Has to. I can't even think of another game that competes with it in terms of the amount of love that I have for the game and the gameplay, the story, the unveiling of the world and the RPG elements and so much good about it. So many things that I enjoy about Expedition 33. Certain other games out there in the last few years have, gripped me with the story, but the gameplay hasn't really been a huge thing, but it also falters in certain areas. Expedition 33 is firmly a 10 out of 10 for me. It's just, there's very few things that I think I could even suggest I would want them to improve to make it a better game for me. I've read through the subreddit. I know of all of the complaints that everybody's saying about the game, but for me personally, I just absolutely adore it. So I'm happy for you. I'm really happy for you. Kyler started playing the game. Reece started playing the game. I'm having such a good time. And then Sam saying, I've noticed an uptick in the amount of times Brett uses the Pennsylvania word yins, and I appreciate it. That's partially, a lot of it's due to Kyler writing that into scripts a little bit more on our shorts, so I've been saying it more frequently from a scripted perspective, but then I've also adopted saying it ironically, which, as is the case with any mimetic thing that you pick up ironically, will start to become unironic in its usage eventually. And I did hit a couple people with yins in Taiwan. I did drop that, and it was unironic when I did it. I did not mean to, and the yins just slipped out. So picking up the Pittsburghese just in time to leave and head out of here and start picking up the Yebo, Saobona, Unjani, Hamagashi. See you guys tomorrow, hopefully, for more of the hottest tech news.